myself, and this is the first time we've ever talked, like straight up. So if he gets mad at me, this is legit. All right, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody who you are, what you're about, and then if everybody, if you want to go to his YouTube, it's linked in the description. So go for it.
All right, guys. Hey, what's going on, guys? Name is Jay Dorlius. I am a active duty Special Forces First Sergeant. Again, I'm 2 months away from retirement, and for the last 6 months or so, I've just been on YouTube trying to share my knowledge and wisdom with anybody that's willing to hear me out as far as my career over the past 20 plus years, going from a 12 Bravo to selection, the Q course, becoming a Special Forces engineer, getting promoted, becoming a Special Forces team sergeant, doing the S3 NCOIC job, and then becoming a first sergeant, all in 3rd Special Forces Group. And I was at that crossroad, 19 years and 6 months, looking at the Sergeant Major's board and trying to figure out if I wanted to, keep going past 20, pinning E9, and then yell at people for, hands in pockets and walking on grass and all that bullshit. And like, I've always been like a tactical guy, right? Like I've always been, I want to go to the field. I want to move, shoot, communicate, medicate. And once you get past the team sergeant aspect of that job, you pin on first sergeant, like you're just riding a death at that point. And I know it only gets worse, once you make E9. So with that in mind, I made the decision to, retire. But I still had so much more to give to essentially the world. So I just had to figure out a way to share the knowledge and experience. And my way of doing it was through YouTube. So yeah, the last 6 months, I've been on there sharing knowledge and wisdom, trying to get guys to go Special Forces once they make that decision, help them train, help them get their mindset right, and help them crush SFAS, and then go into the Q course, and then eventually a operational group. So that's what I've been doing for the last 6 months.
Right. Okay. So if anybody wants to go SF, he's the guy. He will teach you the ways. So we're just going to get right into this. We'll get into all the desk work, your whole career. But before you went SF, what was that? Did you deploy? What was that about? What's your MOS?
So before I went SF, I was a 12 Bravo combat engineer. And I came in 2003, and I was stationed in Fort Riley, Kansas.
Okay. Also a combat engineer, but we're not even about to compare nothing. All right. So we're going to bring it even way back. What was the basic training like back then in the day? Like you were in the first era of like Iraq, Afghanistan drill sergeants. So were they telling you what it was like on the front lines and like what to expect and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I went to basic training in 2003. And of course, the Iraq war kicked off while I was in basic training. And it was, it was completely different back then. And I remember vividly just getting messed with, so I'm, 18 years old. I came out of New York City, joined the military, because initially growing up, I wanted to be a, New York City cop, but I did school. So it was either 2 years of college or military experience. So I was like, you know what, I'll go get the military experience. So I went in as a 12 Bravo. Recruiter got me, showed me that video of everything blowing up, shit. I was like, yeah, I want to do that now. So I went in, went to basic training, Fort Leonard, Missouri, and doing, basic Iraq kicked off. And I remember the drill sergeants just messing with everybody, right? Like they would wake us up in the middle of the night and they were like, yep, we just got the word. You guys don't have to finish AIT. They need bodies over there right now. Pack your duffel bags. There's a bus outside. Get on it. You're going to Kuwait and then into Iraq. And we're all freaking out. And we're like, what? Like, we still need to go shoot. Like, we haven't even done BRM yet. So we're taking our stuff downstairs. Dudes are crying. And I'm like, oh. You know what I mean? And then we get down there and they're like, yeah, we're just kidding. All right, go back upstairs. So yeah, that was an experience that still sticks with me till this day. You know.
At that time, so Afghanistan had kicked off, but was that even like, did you guys even hear about Afghanistan, or that wasn't really even a thing?
No, so Afghanistan, you got to keep in mind when Afghanistan kicked off, like it was just SF dudes doing majority of the work. It was fifth group, and then you had third group in there doing work, but it was on such a small scale during the early years. And then, as time went on, it became like this big ordeal where we brought in conventional units, started building FOBs and all of that. But in the early years, it was just SF guys doing work. So it wasn't as big as Iraq was.
Okay. So then you deploy in 2003, and I'm assuming you're a combat engineer. You're doing route clearance at that time. What can you explain what route clearance even was at that time? Like, what is that?
Route clearance, oh my God, man. I still have nightmares about what we were doing during the early years and calling it route clearance, right? So
Can you
all
actually
that
go
stuff
over
started,
the progression? Like, route clearance back then compared to today, it is not what it is. Can you
dude,
explain that?
it's night and day, man. So when we were doing it in 2003, so it all started, right? Because when the war kicked off, you know, like the Iraqi army, they just abandoned everything. So we had like this ASP that they technically house all their munitions, and there was nobody guarding it. So the bad dudes would go in there, grab these shells, and they would just rig whatever they can out of it, and that was their IED. So once that started happening, as engineers, they were like, "Hey, you guys know how to deal with explosives. Like, go, drive down this road and see if there's anything that looks, like out of the norm." So we would literally so we had these Humvees, these soft shell Humvees, and we went to the welder and we were like, "Hey, could you put some iron on this stuff?" Dude, we had sandbags in the bottom of our 113s to try to protect us from IED blasts. Like we had sandbags at the floor, we had sandbags, along the top where the troop hatch was. Like that was like we did rock clearance in 113s. And then we also did dismounted rock clearance. Like we were walking and looking for IEDs.
So
Like it was
at this time, what were you comparing what to do? Like you had what people have to know as combat engineers, you have an engineer Bible and you have a doctrine, but you have to know at this time you have nothing to compare anything to. So are you just learning as you go?
dude, we were learning as we went
Yeah.
because you think at that point there was no EOCA. We didn't have any of that. We were just like we knew what landmines look like, and we knew the signs for landmines. So that's what we were going off of because at that point, like route clearance and IEDs was still pretty new. So the Iraqis were still amateurs. So when they put in their IEDs, like they would, dig a hole and put the IED in there, and you can just see the fresh dirt. You can see like when it rained, like it sunk in. Like we knew all of those signs, and approximately 4 or 5 months into it, we started getting better
Yeah.
at finding them and dispose of them. So it was pretty much like a trial by error.
Sure.
Like we made all the mistakes up front, and then we started to figure it out. And as soon as we would figure it out, they would switch it up, and then we would have to learn those TTPs, and over the time, like over the years, it got more and more progressive. Then it became covert IEDs, it became EFPs.
Yeah.
Like none of that stuff was a thing back when I was deploying.
So what you learned in basic training, did a lot of that stick with you too much, or it was like, hey, this is a new war for combat engineers, we need to figure it out? Or
Oh, dude, it was completely new because what we learned in basic training was, landmines. It was all around landmines, like between the MICLIC and all of that. Like it was how to clear a minefield. It wasn't about how to, find and dispose of IEDs.
Right.
And that's how EOCA and all these other courses came about because we started to figure it out. Like, hey, we need more. Like we need a school that teaches 21 Bravos or 12 Bravos how to find and dispose of IEDs, because at that point we were just out there figuring it out. And then, of course, vehicles started getting more and more advanced with the RG31s, the Buffaloes, is it the Caterpillar? Like a bunch of the different vehicles started to come about.
Yeah, yeah. So as the progression of IED goes, by that point, though, now you start to transition from regular military into special forces. Or how fast did that transition go? Were you like, I'm not doing regular military again, I'm going SF? What inspired you to do that?
So before I went to selection, because I was a 12 Bravo for 5 years,
Wow, okay.
I did 2003 through 2004. As far as deployment goes, that was my first one to Iraq. Then I did 07, 08 was my second one to Iraq. And that was when they were doing the stop loss. And that one ended up being a 15-month deployment.
Actually, could you talk about that real quick? The difference is is it night and day from that Iraq deployment to this Iraq deployment?
Yeah. So by 08, because again, 2003, it was very amateur like, hey, let's just go to the ASP and grab a shell and just throw it on the side of the road in a burlap bag with some wires running, out of it. Fast forward to 2008, now it's, hey, EFPs were starting to become a thing. Covert bombs were a thing. VBIEDs were a thing. So within, 4 years, they've progressively gotten better to where we were losing dudes left and right in 2008.
That's, yeah. Again, I like harping this out there because people don't realize the combat engineer is learning so much every single deployment. It's the biggest cat and mouse game nobody knows about. Nobody knows how crazy that was. And you have somebody here who, has been on multiple deployments, who's seen it firsthand. So then, okay, now we're in this transition phase of you did regular military, now you're going into SF. Can you talk about what inspired you? Why are you going SF?
Dude, I had this dickhead squad. Till this day, him and I are best of friends. But because starting off, dude, I was a dirtbag, man. Like I was not a good soldier at all. But it all stems from, joining in 2003 and going immediately downrange, and then losing a bunch of buddies, from that first rotation. And then I came back and I was just a rebel. Like I didn't want anything to do with the Army. I was pissed off. Like I was in a bad place. And I'm talking about because I was stationed in Fort Riley, Kansas, and there's nothing to do out there. Yeah. So I was going to, Aggieville, and I was getting into fights with, football players because K-State is right there. Like I was just a mess. I couldn't wait till my contract was up so I can just get out. And at that point, 04, 05, a lot of guys had gotten out from the original platoon, right? Because after one rotation in Iraq, we lost a bunch of dudes, and some of the guys, their term was up. So a lot of guys were getting out, and we're getting new leadership in, right? So changing of the guards. So we're getting a bunch of new dudes in, and the squad leader came in. He came in as an E5 to the platoon, and at that point, I was in a different squad. But word quickly got around that me and my little group of dudes, we were troublemakers. And I remember, and this is years later, that squad leader's telling me this. He was like, dude, I did everything that I could to get you to my squad so I can chapter you out. He was like, that was it. Like, that's all he wanted to do was get me to his squad so he can chapter me out, me and the other guys. And but my platoon sergeant saw potential, and he kept me in a different squad. And they worked on me, and eventually, I got married, I got my stuff together. And when I did make it into the that squad leader's squad as a team leader, him and I just clicked and everything worked out. And we got back from the '08 trip. He went to selection, and then something happened, and he didn't get picked up for whatever reason. I truly believe it's because he was a tad bit more senior than they were looking for, because he was a stud.
Okay.
As far as running, rucking, land nav, like he crushed it. So leading up to that point, I didn't know what SF was, right? So I lived in my little bubble, 12 Bravo, Sapper Tab, like that was my thing. I didn't know about Ranger, SF. I didn't know about any of that. So he went, didn't get picked up, and not every, like the E4 Mafias and the E5s, like we all started talking about, hey, like we just did a rotation. Guys are thinking about going to different places. Dudes are getting drill sergeant orders and everything's in the works. And I'm like, man, I need to do something different, because I've been here for 5 years. And within that 5 years, I've made it from E3 all the way up to E6 at this point. And I needed to, I needed a change of scenery. And speaking with that squad leader, I learned about SF, and I'm like, you know what, let me go give this a try. And I went and I got picked up, and everything worked out.
Okay. And the thing is, the Engineer Brotherhood, even though you've probably surpassed them in rank, I'm assuming you still respect them a lot, as like, that was my squad leader. And I don't think people realize in the engineer community, even if you pass someone in rank, you always have respect for the leaders that brought you up.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Because even till this day, I still talk to that squad leader. I still speak to majority of the guys that, I came up with in 2003. I just, like, literally 6 months ago, made it onto social media. For the past 15 years, I've just been dark, focusing on the job at hand. But when I did make it onto the internet and finally made it on Facebook and all those other places, I started, reaching out to those dudes, and it's like old times, just seeing the old pictures and the old videos from old deployments. But yeah, till this day, like I still respect and still talk to some of those dudes.
So first day in SF, I have to ask this because I don't think anyone's ever put it out there. Can you just put your hands in your pockets and do whatever you want at this point? Like,
well, yeah.
Was there a big difference? Like, I'm SF now. Like, I can walk on the grass.
Dude, it started as soon as I got selected. I went back to Fort Riley, Kansas, and I was like, fuck you guys. You guys can't touch me. The hands in my pockets, running around without my headgear on. Yeah, dude, I was...
So, like, being SF, though, for real, like, it is, like, you change. That's it. You're out of big army. You're in SF. You kind of, not that there's a cockiness to you, but you're in a different bubble now. That's it.
Yeah. It's like night and day, man. So, but the transformation takes place in the qualification course, because even after selection, you're still, like, you still have a lot of big army in you. But when you go through the Q course, you'll start to transition and you'll start learning, doctrine as it relates to SF, and you're slowly morphing into what the, SF regiment needs. So they slowly pull some of that big army stuff out of you and kind of leave it in the Q course. And when you graduate, you still have, certain traits as it relates to big army still in your system. But you'll emerge a different person on the back end.
Okay.
And then
when you get to your unit, like, do you just have to ask people where the bathroom is? Like, you just feel like the brand new guy? Like, nobody's ever put this out there. What do you do? Like, how does that work?
So it's weird, right? Because even as a, senior E6, just made the E7 list when I showed up, like, I was still walking into a brand new unit, right? I was still the new guy. So I still had to show up, sit in the corner, and pretty much shut the fuck up, because I didn't know anything, right? So even though I'm a SF guy and I'm supposed to be, this elite dude, there's guys on that team room that's been there for 6, 7, 8 years that's been doing that job. and I'm fresh out of the Q course. I just know the basics. So I show up to a team room and no one talks to me for like 3 months. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, is anybody gonna say anything? Like I still had to, earn my stripes, essentially. I still had to earn my place on that team because it's not given. It's not like go to infantry basic or you go to, Fort Leonard Wood and graduate, basic and AIT. Now you show up to a platoon and you're part of that squad. It's not like that in SF. Like I graduated the Q course. To get on that team, I had to interview with the team sergeant. And if he found me, if he found me worthy, then I get my foot in the door. Now, once I'm in there, now I got to impress 11 other dudes. You know what I mean? And within that 6-month period, I'm on probation. If I don't earn it, or if I step on my, dick for whatever reason, then it's, hey man, we appreciate you showing up. Like, go back to the B team and go interview for another team and see if that works out for you.
Wow.
Right.
So I didn't know this. So like, you're kind of doing another qualification after you've done all this hard work. You got to now.
Pretty much, because all the Q course is doing is showing you the basics. And then once you get to that team has its own dynamics. It's got its own dudes. Looks like my phone's gonna crap on me here pretty soon. Give me a second. I gotta yell at the wife. Bring me a charger.
Yeah, do your thing. Hey everyone, this is live, and if you have questions, put them down in the comments. Make sure they're good questions, please. And if you are just joining, this is the first time we're doing a live show, and we're doing it big. This is a first sergeant in Special Forces. All right. So I figured we'd go big. All right. And thank you for the membership. I see you. So leave some questions. I'll write them down over here. What's up, everybody? Hope everyone's doing well. Appreciate all of you guys hopping in. Make sure you guys like the live stream. That helps out a lot. Leave your comments. And make sure you guys go subscribe to him too. I got his link in the description for you guys. You good?
All right. So
cool.
Where was I? Yeah. So once you show up to the regiment, you then now have to own and requalify and become part of that team, because what they don't want is to bring you in and you're not a fit. Because just like your squad and your platoon, like once you deploy, there's that bond that you guys have, right? It's the same concept. Like once we're down range with each other, you figure like there's not a lot of dudes. Like a platoon and a company, like there's 30 dudes per platoon, 120, in a company, give or take, with Big Army. And SF, dude, there's 12 of you guys. And you're out there in some remote piece of land in Afghanistan, and the 12 of you guys have to make it happen. What you don't want is, like a bad apple or somebody that you don't want there. That's going to take away from the work that needs to be done if that guy's not the right fit. Okay. So there's normally like a 6-month probation period where dudes have to no shit earn their spot on the team. And if they don't earn it, then they'll get the boot, they'll bring somebody else in, and then they'll figure it out.
So
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I don't think this has ever even been talked about. Like, so if you don't make that probationary period, what is the boot? Like, are you doing now, like, are you sweeping the floors? Like, where do you go from there?
Well, no. So within that 6-month probation period, because every team is different.
Yeah.
I know when I was a team sergeant, and I would interview a brand new guy, right? Because I wanted to make sure he's the right fit for my team. So I would bring him in, I would interview him, I would counsel him, just like Big Army. And then within that 6 months, he's pretty much doing all the bitch work. So he's sweeping the floor, he's mopping the team room, he's taking out the trash, he's, like he's doing all the stuff that, we don't want to do. We're fucking senior. Like you just showed up, like, but we do that for a specific reason. We want to see who's going to be humble enough to do it without bitching.
Okay.
Because it's a rite of passage that we all go through. Like during that 6 months, there's certain things that we're looking for in that new guy to make sure that he is the right fit. And it starts with those little tasks. Okay. And you'll be surprised on how many guys show up and say, like, wait a minute, I just graduated the Q course. I'm 35 years old. I'm not sweeping your fucking floor.
Wow.
And he is a team son. I'm like, well, shit, I appreciate you telling me that. Grab your shit, get out. And so the boot is pretty much telling that guy to, hey, pack your shit and then get out of my team room. And the word quickly spread, right? Because like all the team rooms are in the same hallway. And if he gets kicked off of my team, he goes to the B team, or HHC, as you guys like to call it, right? He goes to head and he sits there until another team sergeant, invites him to join the team. And if you get kicked off multiple team, then your reputation is pretty much ruined, and you just went through the Q course for no reason. Wow. Right? You're going to spend your enlistment contract on the B team, and then you're going to get out not having to do the job that you actually signed up for.
Okay, so like I said, I've always wondered who actually mops the floors for Special Forces, and I finally got my answer.
The new guy does it. I don't care if you're a captain. I don't care if you're a senior E7. You show up to my team as a new guy, and you're mopping floors.
Okay, I love that. I did not know that. So I guess we'll bring it back. You had mentioned that you actually went to sapper school before going SF?
No, so I went to sapper school after I went SF, because something about fucking Fort Riley, because I was mechanized.
Sure, okay.
And I don't know if that's still a thing between mechanized and light. And
yeah, it is.
So,
I'll just say real quick, for people who don't know, mechanized, I'm assuming you were in Bradley's and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then light infantry or light combat engineer work, you're just flying and walking everywhere. That's the biggest difference. You're either in a truck or not a truck. All right.
Yeah. So as a mechanized guys, we didn't get a lot of school opportunities, and I had a chance to go to sapper school as I was training for selection, and I didn't want to go before and get hurt. So I actually went once I made it through the Q course. I went on my first deployment with SF, and once I got back, I went to sapper school and got my tab there.
Okay, and I'm assuming a lot of people in here don't even know what sapper school is. Do you want to just kind of give a brief rundown of like what is sapper school? What's a sapper tab?
Yeah, so sapper school is pretty much ranger school for engineers, for 12 Bravos. But it's not just 12 Bravos, it's the entire engineer section, right? Because you got 12 Novembers, you got a bunch of different engineer MOSs. You go to sapper school to learn engineer tasks. So as a 12 Bravo, I grew up seeing sapper tabs everywhere. My squad leader had them, my platoon sergeant had them, the first sergeant had it, the captain had it. So that's like our version of the Ranger tab. It's a 28-day course out of Fort Leonard Wood. And I want to say it was the late 2000s.
Okay.
When the tab was actually authorized to be worn.
Yeah, so for people who don't know, you could get a sapper tab or go to sapper school and not you couldn't wear the tab though.
Yeah.
That's odd.
Yeah, so it was like 2000 where they authorized the actual tab. Mm-hmm. And now guys that were sapper qualified could actually wear the tab on their shoulders. So yeah, that's in another what sapper school is.
Going in there though as SF, was that different? Or actually my former platoon sergeant was a senior instructor at SF. Did they care if you were SF, or they're like, dude, we do not care?
Oh, they cared. They didn't fuck with me, man. Now, granted, like doing a GS phase, I still had to do the same, tasks as far as physical, the exams and all of that stuff. For you guys that don't know, sapper school is broken down into two separate phases. You have GS phase, which is just your general knowledge. Yep. You'll get your demo test, you'll get your knot test, like you'll do a bunch of different engineering tasks during the first 2 weeks. And then you'll go into patrol phase, where you'll be conducting, small unit tactics type missions with demolition involvement. So I did all the same tasks the first 2 weeks that everybody had to do. And then it changed once I got into patrol phase, where as soon as I got my go, now it's just tied to everyone else, helping them and whatever way, shape, or form so they can get that go. So that was the biggest different or change for me, was that once I got my go, I was, the alpha team leader for everyone else. You know what I mean?
So pretty
So
much were you just like the golden ticket if you want to pass Sapper School? If I'm on your team, I know I'm good to go.
yeah. Pretty much like, and for the most part, my class did a really good job because I went back in 2001.
Oh,
Uh, Correction, 2011.
yeah.
So my class did a really good job, but the guys that needed a go or were struggling, I got assigned as the alpha team leader, and I helped them through whatever they needed help with to actually get their go. So yeah.
As far as training goes, where would you put Sapper School as like how tough it was compared to other training?
I tell you what, man, like a lot of guys sleep on Sapper School, and it's because it's not, the Ranger tab and for whatever reason. Like Sapper School is pretty much the first 2 weeks of the Special Forces Engineer course. It's called Cack in Place. That's where you learn all the demo and you do your demo tests and all of that stuff. It's the first 2 weeks of that.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 weeks of the Special Forces Engineer course, which is the patrol phase aspect of it, where all the students go to to the field, and they conduct everything that they've learned throughout the 18 Charlie course. So, and a lot of guys fail the last 2 weeks of the Special Forces Engineer course. That's how hard that FTX is. And it's just as fucking hard at Sapper School. Like a lot of guys on it. And funny story. So I did Sapper School as pre-Ranger so I can go to Ranger School. So I got back from my 2001 deployment, and I had a slot to go to Ranger School. But my group sergeant major at the time was like, hey, everybody going to Ranger School out of third group, I want you to do pre-Ranger. So I was like, bet, let me go to Sapper School. I've always wanted to go as a 12 Bravo. I can knock out, two things in one. So I go to Sapper School as a pre-Ranger, and then I'll go to Ranger School later on, like 2 or 3 months in between. So I go to Sapper School, and we're going through this. I'm going through everything. And I had 3 Ranger tab dudes in my class. And all 3 of them fucking failed. And when I got the talking to him, I was like, dude, like, what's going on? Because leading up to that point, just like everyone else, I thought, the Ranger tab was, the standard, and everybody that has it is a badass and they can pass everything, right? So talking to those dudes, they were like, dude, like, this is horrible. This is a kick in the balls, because even though Ranger School is longer, and this is their words, not mine, it was like, hey, at Ranger School, all I have to do is put one foot in front of the other until it's my time to lead. Leading up to that point, I just need to follow the dude in front of me. As opposed to Sapper School, like every fucking day, not only are you hungry, tired, you're being beaten down, you still have to do math. Like you still have to conduct a bunch of different tasks, especially the last 2 weeks. Like not only are you getting sleep deprived, you're getting food deprived, but you still have to go do an engineer type mission, which involves calculating demolition and implying it in a safe manner so you don't get a safety violation. And those dudes couldn't fucking do that.
Wow.
They're like, dude, like I will take Ranger School any day over this. And after hearing that from them, I got back to my group. I was like, hey, cancel that Ranger School slot, because I don't need to go if I got Ranger tab dudes failing Sapper School,
Wow. That, yeah, Sapper School is just one of those things that is just not, there's no hype behind it. I think maybe in the future, as more and more people like you are coming out, or combat engineers talk about it, maybe there'll be a little more hype, but it's all about Rangers. Even in Hollywood and video games, it's always about Rangers. So yeah, you're hearing it from here. This is like top elite level here, guys. Sapper School is no joke.
Yeah. Well, it's all about me, right? It's all about the media, because you looking at us, like you see Navy SEALs everywhere, but not too much SF, because that's what the media is showing. You know what I mean? So it's all good though.
When you go to an Army school as Special Forces, though, like, did you always feel there was a different vibe to you, or you just had to do the same stuff as everybody else?
Um, so since I've been in SF, I haven't gone to a lot of Big Army school because we have our own schools
Yeah.
for certain things. We even have our own NCOES schools. You know what I mean? So the only Big Army school that I really went to was cyber school. Other than that, like we have everything else in house. We have NCOES schools. We have our own sniper school. Um, we have our own jump master course. Like we have everything else in house.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay, another question I've never heard somebody ask. How do you know how to set up your kit? Like when I was a brand new private, I was like, I don't know why the dump pouch goes behind me, but I'm going to put it there because my squad leader does that. Like why, who tells you what to do? How does that all work?
Yeah. So you go through different phases, right? Because I remember when I showed up to SF as a new guy, like I stepped in that team room and I got my, my M4 with the shorty barrel on there, and I was excited. I had a bunch of different crap on there. I had a light, I had a grip. Dude, my gun looked horrible. Same thing with my kit, right? I got this brand new kit from the our version of CIF, and of course it's different from Big Army. It's like a small kit, and dude, I put all sorts of stuff on there. Like I had grenade pouches, I had magazines, I had them on my back. I look ridiculous. And then the seniors on the team, because on a special forces team you have juniors, you have seniors. Your juniors are like your brand new guy fresh out of the Q course. Then you have your seniors. Those are the guys that's been there a while, right? So each team has two of each. So there's two 18 Bravos, there's two weapon guys, there's two engineers, there's two communications guys, there's two medics. So we work in pairs of twos. And they didn't tell me shit. They saw me looking all fucked up, right? And we went to the range. And my senior looks at me, he's like, okay, yeah, go ahead and shoot with all that crap and let me know how it feels. So I'm on the range, I'm shooting, and I can't get to my magazine pouches. I can't grip my gun. I can't do the drills because my stuff was just all out of whack. And then they just looked at me and said, hey, man, like this is, when you set up your kit, is when you're on the range, when we're in the field, we're patrolling. Like this is where you find out what works for you. Because everybody's different. Okay. Like everybody's body is different. Everybody fights differently. Like me personally, I can't stand belts, but everybody has like the combat belts with the pouches. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't stand them, okay. So I don't wear them because they don't work for me. Like when I run and I climb, they get hung up on stuff. So I don't wear those at all. I guess the easy answer is just get out to that, area, to your operational space, and just see what works for you. Go out to the range and shoot with your plate carrier. Go out to the range and handle your gun, behind barriers, behind cars, behind, holes, so on and so forth, and see what feels right. And because everybody's setup is going to be different. So you just got to get into that space and just play around with it, okay, until something, sticks, essentially.
So I know you guys probably have a lot of access to like cool gear and all that, but is there ever a time where you just like go to Walmart and you need to get some extra gloves real quick? Or like, how does that work if you just need like some quick gear real quick? I don't know.
Dude, you'll be surprised, man. Like we love the mechanics gloves.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, so we get issued like all these, high speed gloves, but like I love the mechanic, gloves that you find at Walmart. Like those are very, very reliable when it comes to doing some of the stuff that we have to do. So yeah, there you go. Like mechanics glove out of Walmart or wherever else. Majority of the guys wear them, man. They're awesome.
And I'm assuming like even while you're at Walmart, do you grab some extra snacks and all that?
Oh yeah, always.
Do you have a top 3 snacks you recommend if you're going to the field, or did you have?
So I have my personal favorite, and I'm pretty sure I'm an addict. Gummy bears, man, like the horrible gummy bears. Like you find me, like I have them in my pockets, I have them in my bag. Like you can't find me on an operation without gummy bears on me. Like I always have those. Yeah, those are my go-to.
And I have to ask this too. Did you guys do you have a favorite MRE and a worst MRE?
Um,
Or because you're SF, do you even have to eat MREs?
oh, dude, I've eaten my fair share of MREs, more so in SF than in Big Army.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because in Big Army, like regardless of what we were doing downrange, we always came back to the chow hall, and we always ate, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then go out on patrols, whatever. SF, dude, I'm out there 7 days at a time with nothing but MREs, So beef stew, number 9, beef stew is definitely my favorite. And the worst MRE was it pork sausage? I think it was.
I've been saying that forever. That is the worst MRE in history.
It's horrible, man. Pork sausage. I can't stand it. Now, granted, if it was the only thing left, whatever, I'll eat it, but I'm not a fan of pork sausage at all, man.
Oh, you're telling me someone from New York City, you're not into pork sausage and gravy?
Horrible MRE.
All right. So now, can you talk about as the engineer sergeant aspect? Do you now have to teach guys like, hey, this is how I do stuff, and do you have to all learn each other's tasks? Like, do you have to teach them engineer tasks?
Yeah. So on a team, we do a lot of cross training. So the team sergeant dictate on the schedule, hey, every Monday we're going to do cross training, and each one of the sections will be responsible for teaching a certain task. So as an engineer, I'll teach my guys demolition. The 18 Bravo, he'll teach us, different weapon system, communications guys, so on and so forth. And as the engineer, I would always teach my guys just basic demo, because when we're out doing work and we gotta breach a door, I shouldn't be the only engineer that knows how to breach a door. Okay. So I teach the guys how to build basic breaching charges, how to tie in, so on and so forth. So whenever we do hit an objective, they're able to breach wherever they're at, and I don't need to be there to make sure that they're being safe. So that's something that we do on the regular.
Do you get as fundamental as like, this is why you use barbed wire for stuff? Do you even go as deep as that?
No, so I don't go as deep because some of the guys don't have the retention span for it. I just tell them, hey, this is what you need to do, and they do it. You know what I mean? Now, not in the aspect of they're not smart enough to retain the information. They just don't give a shit about it. You know what
Okay.
I went to the Q course for it. They just want to know how to do it so they can do it whenever it's time for them to do it. They don't need to know the science behind it and the why and so on and so forth. That's for me to know.
Okay.
And for them to just learn and execute whenever they need to.
Okay. This one is more of a question from a subscriber. What is the worst pathway to get to Special Forces? Like, what is
the worst?
Yeah.
The worst.
A lot of people say you join, then you go Airborne, go Ranger, then go SF. That seems to be the most popular.
So that's probably the worst one. Yeah, because so I always tell guys that, hey, if your end state is special operation, like you want to get there in the shortest amount of time possible. So if you're already in Big Army, take your ass to selection, go through the Q course, right? And then you'll get to the regiment, right? Once you get selected, they'll make you go to airborne school, because that's what I did. I went to selection, airborne school, and then the Q course. The more time you add to that journey, the more your mind's going to mess with you, the more you'll be prone for injuries. And I tell guys this all the time because they tend to be stuck to Ranger school. I'm like, dude, Ranger school is not going to teach you a damn thing that you'll need for selection. Sapper school won't teach you a damn thing that you need for selection, right? You just need to go to selection and get after it, because they'll teach you what you need there. You know what I mean? So yeah, the worst way would be airborne, Ranger, selection. Like you can like wherever you're at right now, I would just say selection, and then everything else that's supposed to happen will happen after selection.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll even be honest, even for myself, the big Army perspective is get all these qualifications to make yourself look good, and maybe you get a little experience and then go in. So
Yeah,
that's even from our perspective is what, yeah.
that shit doesn't work at selection
Okay.
because you can have all the accolades in the world, and then you show up to selection and you get kicked in the balls, and you're like, oh, that shit hurts. I'm done. You know what I mean? Like you still have to show up and perform and showcase the qualities that the cadres are looking for. And having a tab and having air assault, like that's not what they're looking for. We don't give a shit about any of that. Like if you at any given time see me in my uniform or any other SF guys, we're not wearing our badges and our patches or any of that crap, man. Like you'll see us with our long tab and whatever short tab we have, and that's it. We normally don't showcase any of that because none of that shit matters.
Interesting. Okay, so this is actually a personal question.
Sure.
When I was on Fort Campbell, you guys were customizing. Well, that was fifth group. I know you're in third group, but they were customizing their Humvees like any way they wanted. Is that?
Yeah.
Do you guys just have the liberty to do whatever you want to your vehicles?
Yes. But it's tailored to the operational space that we're deploying to. So at any given time, the Humvees in Africa will look different than Humvees in Afghanistan or that of Iraq. So a lot of the fifth group vehicles that you probably saw the 240 at the drive side or even at the TC side with 240s mounted on the back, and it's because that's what those guys needed for that operational space. Okay. That could quickly change based on where you're deploying to.
Okay. Another question is there an issue ever of standardization? Because you guys can do whatever you want, but one of the biggest positives for Big Army is we already know what everyone's doing because we're all on the same page. Is that ever an issue for you?
No, because that's what the Q course does.
Okay.
Like the qualification course gives every special forces operator that flatline standard, and everybody has to meet that standard or else they won't graduate. Okay. So when you show up to your operational group and you get on a team, that team now has its SOPs and its TTPs that you, as a new guy already with the standard, need to build on top of. Okay. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So this is my last question. If there's just one skill that you think someone should focus on or one trait where they would pass selection, what would be like the one piece of advice you could give somebody real quick? Like you got like 10 seconds to tell them something. What would you tell them?
Dude, get out there and do fucking land nav, man. Like 55%, if not more, of everybody that goes to selection, they fail land navigation. And it's brutal, man. It's a week of just day and night land navigation. And it's crushing dudes left and right. And it's because guys aren't comfortable doing land nav at night in the dark with no NVGs, with no headlamp, with any of that, man. Like the darkness will bring out the bitch in you if you don't get out there and practice it. So if you're serious about going to selection, get out there and do land nav because that's the only time that you're actually out there by yourself. All the other time, like week 1 of selection, you're doing like a bunch of admin, physical stuff where there's other people around you. Week 3, team week, you got a bunch of other dudes around you and you're, building apparatus and you're moving a bunch of stuff. But that second week, it's just you in your head and you're just out there conducting land nav. And we have what's called the store course. It's fucking 50 plus miles of you just navigating for 10 fucking hours. You know what I mean? And it's a go or no go event, and that gets a lot of guys, man. So you just need to get out there and just practice land nav.
Okay. Do you want to give yourself a last promotion? What you provide? How you can help people?
Yeah. So if anybody's interested, like I said, in going to selection or just even interested in learning about SF on the YouTube channel Green Beret Chronicles, I try to shed light on as much stuff as possible. I also have a mentorship program that guys can reach out to me at any given time, and I'll, share whatever I can, because a lot of people don't realize that, hey, none of this shit is classified. There's a documentary out there called 2 Weeks in Hell, where it literally followed a selection class throughout the entire process. So I'm just sharing my knowledge to help guys learn the basics, like how to take care of your feet, how to ruck, how to conduct land nav, how to pack your rucksack, like all that basic stuff that you'll need for selection. My intent is to share all that knowledge with whoever's interested, so I can hopefully help the right guy get through SFAS. Because I've spoken to too many guys when I was a first sergeant that, solid dudes, but they just had a mishap here and there. They got too close to the roads when they weren't supposed to, and they end up failing selection. So if I can shed some light and give my 2 cents to a candidate before they even get to selection, that'll help them out a lot. And that's what I'm trying to do, as far as share, 20 plus years of special operation experience with whoever's willing to listen. So yeah, if you guys are interested, check out the YouTube channel. I'm small enough to where I reply to every comment in the section, to where I reply to every comment in this that dude sent out. So you better jump on there while I still have time,
Yo, for real, go check him out. He makes amazing content. I saw him a month ago. I was like, this guy's going to be big on YouTube. Super humble guy. Again, this is the first time we've ever talked. None of this is scripted. So I got his everything linked in the bio if you want to go check out First Sergeant.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you so much, bro. I really do. Thank you for your service. Thank you for educating us and me. I didn't know that you guys went to Walmart. So I appreciate that. And
Walmart has everything, man. It's got everything you need.
Thank you everybody for being here, and stay tuned for episode 2. Catch you guys later. Peace out, guys.
Yeah, appreciate it.